What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Sports 2.0 show. I'm Will Reed. I'm joined here by Vincent Graziano. But first things first, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the Sports 2.0 network. We have a lot of great content coming out. We'll be talking UFC here, but we got basketball previews for the semifinals, NHL hockey content, and anything you'd want to see, you can find on the Sports 2.0 network. Let's get it over to you, Vincent. How are you feeling today on this nice Wednesday? How have you been?
I've been good, man. The weather's been pretty hot, but I'm good. I'm in the AC right now, so it's all good. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's been pretty hot down here in Virginia. I think we're reaching the 90s consistently now, but being in the AC is definitely nice. I would agree with you there. So let's take it back. We'll look at the card from last week. Really not a lot of action here on the prelims or anything else besides the top two co-main events. One thing I did want to mention for any of the bettors out there, if you saw, Justin Jaynes did bet on himself. He bet the purse he was going to take from his fight, whether he won or lost, and put it on himself. He bet on himself and he lost in a split decision. Unfortunate for him. And any bettors out there, anytime you try to bet on yourself, it does not work out often. And it didn't work out for Justin Jaynes. But now we'll move into the two co-main events. We had Boser taking on Saint-Preux. Boser gets the knockout. What did you see in this fight, Vincent?
Yeah, so Saint-Preux, I didn't think he really had any business moving up in this fight to take on Boser. Boser's a complete beast. Heavyweight is just a completely different division than the rest. It's a lot less tactical. It's going to be whoever lands the big shot first, and Saint-Preux just doesn't have the power to compete in that division. The knockout, he didn't really get hit at all before the knockout. So, it's not like he was getting battered all fight, but like the one shot power from the heavyweight Boser, took him right out. And he actually was in good position just before the knockout. He was wrestling, he was on top of Boser, but you could tell it was hard to take him down. And then there was a moment where it looked like Boser actually grabbed the fence, but the replay showed he didn't, and he was still able to get up. Like he was flattened on his back. So, I think Saint-Preux should move back down and focus on that for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with you there. Saint-Preux did try to bring it to the ground and get some movement going there. But you mentioned it, the knockout power of the heavyweight division is too much for Saint-Preux. He was never really a strong striker to begin with, but he showed some striking abilities in his last few fights. But moving up to the heavyweight division and trying to deal with these hammers that are coming in, especially from the Canuck and Boser, it's really hard to deal with. I agree. He should probably move back down to that light heavyweight. He'll get a lot of better competition down there. The heavyweight's not the strongest division, which is why I'm assuming he tried to move up. But light heavyweight definitely is better suited for his style when he likes to try to take him more to the ground, try to get things like that going. So I think that fits more of his style, and he should probably continue to move back up there. But our other co-main, or move back down to the light heavyweight event. But our other co-main event, we had Gane secure a unanimous decision over Volkov. What did you see here, Vincent?
Yeah, so as I said, the heavyweight division isn't as tactical, but Ciro Gane is an extremely tactical fighter. He avoids the big shots. He secures some takedowns. I don't believe he was able to secure any against Volkov, but he's a good wrestler. He's a good striker. He's sharp. He's able to miss a lot of heavy punches from these guys. And it's hard to string together a lot of wins in this division, and he's 9-0. He is 32 years old, so he's not exactly young, but he's young in his career. And, I saw another great performance from him. It was pretty much domination. He won by unanimous decision, 50-45 on 2 scorecards. So, he brings a tactical aspect to this division.
Yeah, I got to agree. The movement that Gane was able to show against Volkov really threw him off. You don't see a lot of big guys moving like Gane is able to move in the heavyweight division. He's a very tactical fighter. You did mention going into this fight, I did expect him to bring Volkov down to the ground. Volkov was the guy to surrender 14 takedowns to Curtis Blades in that one matchup that they had. So I was expecting Gane to try to focus on the groundwork, but really he just focused on his movement, tried to get in punches and kicks where he could against Volkov, and he was really just a consistent striker throughout the fight. But after this fight, we had some news rumbling coming in Gane is going to take on Derrick Lewis for the interim heavyweight title at UFC 265. There's some disputes going on between Francis Ngannou and Francis Ngannou's agent in the UFC. Ngannou's been dealing with some other business dealings in Cameroon and other places. United Arab Emirates hasn't had a lot of time to prepare for another fight. So Dana White has moved on and taken some action here and scheduled another UFC heavyweight interim title between Gane and Derrick Lewis. Do you have any quick previews for this? What are your thoughts on this fight that's going to be coming up soon?
Yeah, no, I was completely shocked when I heard the news. I mean, I think this is actually going to be a very interesting fight. Although I don't agree with how fast it came about. I don't know behind the scenes. Obviously, we both don't know what was going on if Francis said he couldn't fight for another few months. But I like that White is taking the initiative and moving forward. I think it's going to be an interesting fight because we saw Derrick Lewis fight a guy who can wrestle in Curtis Blades, and he knocked him out pretty bad. And Gane's undefeated, but we haven't seen him up against a crazy power striker yet. Volkov, he's a heavyweight, obviously, but he's not the most powerful of the heavyweights. We did see him dominate Rosenstrike, but he didn't really take any damage, no punches in that fight. It was a pretty boring fight. And it's going to be interesting to see how his chin holds up if Lewis can land a big shot. So, I think that's going to be an interesting fight. And it's also going to be interesting to see if Lewis can stay on his feet against a wrestler. I mean, we saw him do a good job against Blades, but Gane, I think, is a different beast.
Yeah, you brought it up. Derrick Lewis is probably the second strongest striker in the UFC behind Francis Ngannou. The power behind his strikes is just impeccable. I mean, when you see him go into a fight and he lands that one punch, instant knockout, and he goes onto the mat and starts banging and does his little routine after he wins the fight, it's just pretty amazing to see. He's probably the second most powerful fighter behind Francis Ngannou. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Gane approaches this fight. Volkov, you did mention, is a strong striker as well, but not to the level of Derrick Lewis. I expected going into this fight, I expect Gane to try to focus on the ground. But he's shown some versatility in every single aspect of the sport. So I think he has a pretty good shot going into this one, undefeated. So we'll see. But the winner of this is most likely going to be taking on Francis Ngannou whenever he is ready. So I expected a big fight here at UFC 265 that is going to be headlined by that Amanda Nunes fight, who we probably expect to absolutely dominate whoever she faces again. But we do have UFC 264 coming up in the future. We got McGregor versus Poirier. What are your expectations for this card?
I mean, this is going to be a great fight. It's probably one of the biggest in UFC history, I'd say. Maybe Khabib, McGregor, but this is really for McGregor's legacy. It's going to be interesting to see what Conor comes to this fight. It's going to be interesting to see leading up to the fight. I mean, we're just going to start to get into the press conferences pretty soon with the fight being just a couple weeks away, not even. But I want to see if Conor is going to be back in that trash talking mentality after their little Twitter beef, and if he's going to be motivated to actually win the fight and secure his legacy as one of the best martial artists and not just entertainers in the UFC history.
Yeah, I mean, his breakout into the UFC was probably one of the quickest, fastest, most exciting breakouts of any UFC star there's been. He did secure that first win against Poirier, comes back in his last fight, loses the second one, and we have the trilogy that Dana White has been waiting for his entire time in the UFC. Probably one of the biggest trilogies up there in the UFC. But I agree with you. This is probably one of the biggest cards, if not the biggest cards the UFC will probably put out. Everyone is looking forward to McGregor trying to cement his legacy, or maybe Poirier ends McGregor's legacy and continues to show why he is one of the best fighters in the UFC. But yeah, me too. I'm interested to see what happens. Dana White, I don't feel like he's going to want McGregor to lose this fight. If McGregor loses this fight, McGregor is most likely done with his UFC career and is going to be on doing whatever he does with his Irish whiskey or whatever he's up to on the business side of things. But I think if McGregor wins this one, then he shows he still has some ability to compete for a championship or a belt in the UFC. But any other thoughts going into UFC 264? I know there's some other good fights lined up.
Yeah, no, not too much. I mean, we're going to be talking about it next week, so I'm excited to talk about it. But yeah, it should be a great card.
Yeah, Vincent alluded to it. You can catch us next week. We will we will definitely be talking about UFC 264 on a future show. You can catch me and Vincent on that. But other than that, there's really not too much to talk about in terms of UFC news this week. There's no card this upcoming weekend in preparation for what's going to be going on the 10th between McGregor and Poirier and all the other fighters on that card. So that's going to be doing it for us on the Sports 2.0 show. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Sports 2.0 Network YouTube. We are just nearing in on 400 subscribers. That was our goal for the day. We are hoping to hit that. And if you guys can push us over that 400 subscriber limit, we will be eternally grateful to you guys for helping us grow this channel. Hit up the websites, do whatever you can. Check out me and Vincent on Twitter. I'm at Will Reed _ Reed. What are you at, Vincent?
Vincent Graz 15.
All right, so check us both out on Twitter. You guys can see our thoughts and our contributions to the Sports 2.0 Network. That'll do it for us, and we'll see you guys next time.